This is Marie-Antoinette, and in this video I'll be transforming her many portraits to see how she might have looked in real life using my technology and Photoshop skills. So let's get started. Thank you for watching, subscribe for more historical recreations, and let me know in the comments who you want to see in real life. Marie-Antoinette was the youngest daughter and 15th of her 16 siblings to be born in Vienna, Austria in 1755. Her mother, Marie-Therese, the Empress of Austria, was a lot like Queen Victoria. She was very family-oriented, who wanted to give the impression that she was a mother and a sense of closeness to the public. So for political reasons, she married her children off into Europe. She was very strategic. Marie-Antoinette grew up in the palace in Vienna, and her description can be described as being feminine. She was also kind of lazy and frivolous, but had an excellent character and a good heart. She had little interest in school. Her grades were not up to par. She'd rather dance, play with her dolls, sing, or play her harp. As early as 1760, when she was 5 years old, her mother started plans to marry Marie off to France as part of Austria and France's new union. 1770, Marie-Antoinette was betrothed to Louis XVI, who was not yet king. She was 14, left for France, and got married. Now she lives in Versailles, and as the new girl, some people liked her while other people didn't. It would be 4 years before she becomes queen, and during this time, she's getting used to the many customs of Versailles, which was much more than what Austria had. She was also trying to deflect Madame du Barry, the king's mistress, whom she did not like, but she mostly stayed within her circle of friends. 1774, when she's not yet 20, she becomes queen, and this is where things change, because she's now in an elevated position where people are looking up to her. One of her most important jobs was to produce an heir, and this proved rather difficult because her husband Louis XVI was very shy, quite the opposite to the sociable and outgoing Marie-Antoinette. The couple were pleasant to each other, but they just didn't share the same interests, so it took 8 years to get pregnant, and in 1778 at 22, Marie-Antoinette gave birth to her first child. She would have 4, with 2 dying before the Revolution. I talk more about her children and her husband in my Kings of France video and also Marie-Antoinette's children video, but basically Louis XVI was not given the right education to be a strong king, and with his shy personality he held back a lot with all the problems France was facing. So at times Marie-Antoinette had to step up to help her husband, but with her lack of political education and interest, she would make some critical and damaging decisions. But a lot of her influence mostly came from her nominating her friends and her friends of friends into powerful positions, and those new advisors might have not made the best decisions. And this was fault finding for the young queen because a lot of people would see her as the instigator for future unpopular policies. On top of that, she was lavish in terms of partying and gambling and spending money on food, clothes, and gifts, and all of this contributed to her reputation. There's one thing that's often overlooked, and that's Louis and Marie were very philanthropic. For example, in 1774 there was a stampede that killed many people. Louis and Marie gave their spending money for a year to help the victims' families. Louis would often go incognito to hospitals and charitable areas and distribute alms from his own purse. Marie-Antoinette brought up several needy children and paid for their education. They also set up charities to help widows and single mothers, and during the famine of 1788 they sold their flatware to buy grain for the people and ate cheap barley bread to give more to the poor. Marie and Louis had good hearts, but they did everything quietly in a place where being loud was the only way to be heard. As a result, a lot of her reputation was based on what was seen. So the question is, was she responsible for the French Revolution? Before Louis XVI, France was already in disarray from the reign of Louis XV, his predecessor. Louis XV and his mistresses spent way more than Marie-Antoinette, but Louis XV had the influence to stay afloat despite growing resentment towards the monarchy. Louis XVI did not have that strength, so when Louis XV died, that anger was still there and Louis XVI inherited it. The monarch needed a really strong king to offset it, and Louis XVI was not it. You have to remember, she became queen a teenager at 19 years old, so being without her family in Versailles and with everyone else being A, adults, and B, already accustomed to French culture, she became very impressionable from her peers, and not all of them gave her good advice. For example, her royal governess, Princess de Guémené, was a notorious gambler who went bankrupt and introduced young Marie-Antoinette to high-stakes gambling and horse racing. On top of that, you have these greedy advisors around the indecisive king. So Louis and Marie-Antoinette were surrounded and engulfed by greedy people molding their every move, and their personalities weren't strong enough to break free. So when these greedy people made mistakes, they blamed the king and queen. And that's really the icing on the cake. And it's this concoction that's the downfall of the monarchy. So all this information trickles down to the common people who are not enjoying the strain of France's financial situation in this era, and they put blame to the new king and his wife, the foreigner. 1789, the water boils over and it's the French Revolution. Marie thinks back to what her mother taught her from the start, which was family. So she refused to escape and leave her husband behind. Their family, including their children, would spend a few years in prison, and in 1793, Marie and Louis are beheaded. They were 37 and 38 years old. So that's a little on Marie-Antoinette. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more historical recreations, and let me know in the comments who you want to see in real life, and I will see you in the next one.